This episode of Beers and Brawls is proudly brought to you by Shifty Lizard Brewing Co. Amazing little brewery down in Wollonga, serving up awesome ice cold beers on tap. They also have a kitchen that has amazing burgers and chicken wings. If you can't get down to Wollonga, they have another venue in Adelaide CBD called Hard Day's Night, where they have all their beers on tap, plus they've paired up with a few other food trucks there. So, if you're looking for something to do on your next weekend free, get down to Wollonga or Hard Day's Night, make a day of it, try all their beers, try their food, you'll love it. I love it. It's one of my favourite places. So, cheers. That's a good drop. Welcome to Beers and Brawls, the show where my guests and I drink beer and talk all things wrestling. I'm your host Jared, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Beers and Brawls. Before I introduce my legendary guests, I just want to give a massive shout out to our episode sponsor, Shifty Lizard Brewing Co. Now you probably saw the ad before this started obviously, but just want to give them a massive shout out. Very thankful for them, excited to be working with them and look forward to what we have in the future. Now, without further ado, we're going to introduce our legendary guest. He's been around for I can't even count how many years. He's a multiple time PWSA Tag Team Champion, an RCW Tag Team Champion. He's won the Key to the City, and he's also a Power Slam Champion. He's the difference, Tyler Daniels. Tyler Daniels, thank you for joining me on this episode.
Thank you for inviting me. And I must say, before we start, you're very welcome. I know that having me on the show was the kicker that got you your new sponsors. So to the boys out there at Shifty Lizard, thanks for sponsoring the young fella. He's given it his go, but not a problem. Check. I'll send you the details where to send that to me, but absolutely keep supporting him. Happy to bring your sponsor on board.
No, definitely. We slipped your name in the email to them to make sure that they... As soon as they knew who you were anyway, they didn't have to Google you. But no, I'm very thankful for you coming on the show, mate, giving up your night to come here and have a chat. Like our guest, one of your good mates, Sean Fuster, last week, another sort of straight edge guy that doesn't drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, as I said last week, more than welcome for people to come on the show. It's not all about drinking; it's all about having a chat.
Well, it's funny you say that. You know, and to tell you that story, like I don't not drink for any particular reason. I was very capable of drinking. Trust me, when I would be out with the boys, that my concern wasn't I didn't drink a lot, but when I did, I could drink a lot in sessions.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I'll be honest, I enjoy training in the morning, especially on weekends. Yeah. And there were way too many mornings where I had to force myself, and then I forced myself to get up and go to the gym in a pretty sorry state. But I went, you had the fun time last night, you get up and pay the price, and I kind of, over the years, it's just something that has just weaned out. That said, I have had a drink every now and then, but realistically, I probably haven't been drinking for about 5 years. Yeah. I do know it's a beers and brawls show, however, so thankfully for me, these days, there's some actually half decent non-alcoholic beers out there, so we might just sneak one or two of those in a little bit later as well, just to keep in the theme of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. No, that sounds great. But no, you are right. There is they've come a long way with those 0% alcohol ones, and they taste like the real thing without the headaches.
That's exactly right, man. So,
why not? But no, like I said, people that don't drink, more than welcome on the show. This is a shout out to the crowd, not talking to you, because you know that. Fine. But so yeah, anyway, what has been going on in the world of Tyler Daniels lately?
Mate, I'll be honest, in the world, not a lot. And that is for those who may or may not have followed the career. I'm sure for that one or two fans out there who do follow the career. It was almost a year ago now, back in the end of February 2022, we had our wonderful run of fringe shows that RCW does every year. And the second one of the three there, we headlined that with myself and the returning Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, what a match.
Against the Pariah and Rocky, so the family. And interestingly, if you go back and have a look at the footage, you can actually see there is a moment, the family comes out, I come out and get introduced, and on my intro, I literally come out and I'm pumping the crowd up like that, and as I'm doing that, I feel a pop, and what I would later find out is I literally tore the bicep tendon on my out of my shoulder socket, so I tore it out of there. It snapped, and that was that pop. And you can literally see me at one point sort of go, oh shit, got to keep going now. And so
before the match,
what a lot of people don't realise is I wrestled that entire match with a torn bicep tendon. And about a week and a half, 2 weeks after that, I had surgery, and I'd been planning to get my shoulder looked at, but what I did at the time is I went in and reattached the bicep tendon to a bone. They shortened it and reattached it. They had to fix the rotator cuff that was shredded, the supraspinatus across the back they had to do some work on, and then they gave my shoulder an arthroscopy and a cleaning out at the same time. So that was
brand new shoulder.
Yeah, kind of. Well, mate, trust me, on this rig, nothing is brand new anymore. It's a long time since brand new. But look, that was, as I said, almost 12 months ago. And right out of the gate, I kind of had surgery and woke up and wanted to get rearing, and it was a pretty slow and sorry piece for the first couple of months. At which point I went back and started getting physio to look at it and to get it moving and stuff, and I was just wanted to get going, and I'll tell a funny story of that in a second. It was kind of, I think, my first physio appointment. I went in and I was talking to him and I'm like, yep, okay, so how's this going to work? What's the progression? What's the time frame? He said, yeah, look, this is a 9 to 12 month rehab process. Ooh. And at that point I went, I'm sorry, it's what? Because I just had to get the surgery done, so I didn't even consider what it looked like. And when he said 9 to 12 months, I was like, oh, that's not going to work. That's not. And in my head I'm going, nah, 3 months, 4 months tops, I'll be back, I'll do this, it'll be fine. It's been almost the full 12 months, and I probably, look, if I wanted to force it and be silly about it, I probably could have come back 3, 4, 5 months ago and done some stuff. I deliberately haven't. I've stayed out of wrestling away, and I've been training and rehabbing, and as you get older, mate, as you will learn, it's important to listen to the body and actually not try to rush it back, because when I was younger, I had no patience.
Well, that's right. You could have easily come back 4 or 5 months ago, been capable of having a match, but something could have went wrong and put it back even further and further. So.
And as I'm sure we will talk about down the track, look, I've been at this game for quite a while, and there's no need or hurry for me to race back. So for me, I don't actually know whether I'm retired or not at this stage.
Well, you never retired in wrestling.
Look, you always have the bug, but for me it's really more about if there is something worthwhile, if there's a reason, a situation that comes up that I go, hey, that's awesome, I could be part of that, I could do something with that, I could make something out of this, then absolutely it's something that I'd consider. But at the same time, if that was the last match, not a bad last match to have.
Definitely.
I happened to catch Brody's segment a few shows ago and heard him talking about it.
Marshall,
and same thing, and I'll be honest, I've known Brody for a number of years now, and I've followed him and knew he had his injuries, etc., and was really was looking forward to seeing him be able to come back and just end things how he wanted. That said, Father Time does no jobs for anyone, trust me. And for him to go out with that last match, I hope that's a feeling that he'll be able to walk away and have and remember that with, because again, I've done a lot of thinking over the last 12 months, and if that is my last match, to be fair, it's not a bad one to go out with.
100%. No, definitely, I saw that match, seen it multiple times. If you haven't seen it, guys, RCW YouTube, look up The Fringe from 2022. Amazing match, and what a moment as well with the return of Gods and Monsters, Matt Basso coming back, and smug guys that you punch in the face. Like what more can you ask for? The family getting their ass kicked.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Always good fun.
That's awesome, man. Well, Fringe Mania is coming back up, as they say.
Fringe Mania is coming
you never
back.
know. We could see a Tyler Daniels pop up. You never know.
But we are we're about 4 weeks away from that. 3-4 weeks away from that.
So kicking off here in Adelaide. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to that. Whatever happens with that, Fringe is always a great time. It's always that atmosphere is always good to be at. So
So guys, Fringe here in Adelaide. Get around it. Get around all the events around there, Gluttony and all that sort of stuff. And obviously go to Riot City and check out their shows. But yeah, just go out and hang out in the garden for a night. It's a great experience, and catch a weird show, and you never know what could happen.
Absolutely.
You never know who could pop up. Matt Hayter floats around there a lot.
Matt Hayter does a few things.
He's a weird cat. But anyway, enough about that idiot. We're going to get into our questions in a second.
Sure. Beautiful.
All right, the questions are loaded up.
All right.
You ready for this?
Mate, I don't know. I've seen a few of these, and I can already tell you, I know there's been a number of people who've run over that 5 minutes. You've seen me talk. There's no way this is staying to 5 minutes. I'll tell you right now.
As you've probably seen in the episodes, the time is just a guide. We can talk all night because we have no time limit. We're not
Perfect.
bound by any laws here. So
Excellent.
We'll start the timer now. Who are you? Who's Tyler Daniels? What is it all about?
Tyler Daniels is a guy who has probably been around for a number of years, probably more than I care to remember and think about. Look, he is just a personification of a guy who thinks he knows what he knows and thinks he's pretty good at what he knows and isn't shy in telling people that.
Yeah.
You know, he will tell you that some people are good, he's great, some people are mediocre, he's marvellous, some people are average, well, he's amazing, right?
Yeah,
and right there is the difference, right? So that's exactly what he's about. But for me, he's a guy who takes pride in what he does, always above anything else, wants to dominate a situation while making it as entertaining as possible.
Nice.
That's really concise. I'm looking at the time.
That's straight to the point. I love it. It's only a minute gone. Who cares?
There you go.
When did you start wrestling?
I started wrestling. I think I started training. It was early 2004. I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
And my first match was in August 2004. So yeah, a number of years ago. So I've been at this. That's part of 19 and a half, 20 years now. So it's that scares me to think that I've been doing it that long. It scares me to think that my body's actually lasted that long more than anything. So.
No, that's good. That's been a long career. Favourite wrestler and why?
Look, that's tough. To answer this, and it's not wrestler, it's wrestlers.
Yeah,
and
that's fine.
Look, I could give you a laundry list of wrestlers that have meant so much to me, and there's a few that I've taken stuff from, and I'll give you that short list first. So Bret Hart is someone that I absolutely grew up admiring, and the reason was I grew up in the era of Hulk Hogan, and a couple of things about Hulk Hogan never worked for me, and I'll talk about that in a second. One of those is Hulk Hogan was this super huge, bigger than life cartoon character, right?
Yeah.
And I knew growing up I was never going to be that big, right? But then I saw this guy called Bret Hart come along, and I went, he's a decent size, but he's not huge.
Yeah.
I could do that.
Yeah.
That I can aspire to be Bret Hart. I can never aspire to actually be Hulk Hogan. So that never worked for me. So in-ring style, mechanics, just fluency and just efficiency of how you go about it, Bret Hart was everything for me in that sense. And ring psychology, loved it.
Yeah.
The other one for me, a huge piece is Kurt Hennig as well.
Nice.
Just, again, so smart, so clever, and can oversell without it looking ridiculous while it is, and it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And then there's some other guys who listen. So Tully Blanchard, for example.
Ooh, nice.
And the reason I say that is he was as cocky out of the ring as he was in the ring. That was who he was, and that is me to a T as well. I'll say those from a working perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw some names at you, and I want you to tell me what the commonality here is. If I talk about Hall, Orndorff, Roberts, and Piper, if I say those four names and then I tack on Tyler Daniels to the end of that, what's the commonality there? Sorry to put you on the spot on your show. I know it's not. I know this isn't how it normally works, but that's why.
Asking the host the questions.
Absolutely.
I like this.
So there you go. So Hall, Orndorff, Roberts, and Piper. And if you need more, Scott Hall, Paul Orndorff, Jake Roberts.
Well, their promo work and stuff comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have amazing promos and mic work.
Mm-hmm.
Just their character in general really draws you in, but I don't know, am I close at all?
You are pretty close. So there's two parts to that. One is their ability to draw you in, absolutely, the character work of who they are, and they are believable in what they are as who they are. It is them. It's not this ridiculous made-up character. That's who they are.
Yeah.
The other one, though, that tells you that, none of them are world champion. They were always the guy that worked the guy to work to the world champion.
Yeah, okay.
So if you think about that, that's absolutely been my role, and I have no problem with that because for me, there's a lot of pride in that.
Hey, don't discredit that power slam championship.
Mate, I know, I don't, and I don't because also that the match that I won that against was Havoc, who's no slouch in his own right, and I've known Havoc for a very long time. And the funny thing is, that is the first one-on-one match Havoc and I have ever actually had.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've known each other for since the day I walked into wrestling. He was already there.
Yeah.
I've known him for that long, and that's the first one-on-one match we ever had. And love that match, love working it with him, especially at this stage of our career for both of us at our age to go out there and do that. But yeah, so when I say that, so Scott Hall, Paul Orndorff, there's that time, I told you, way longer than 5.
Don't need to worry about that.
So Scott Hall, Paul Orndorff, Jake Roberts and Roddy Piper, and you're right, on the mic, amazing, character work in the ring, believability, and they're always that guy that never won that world title, but always made the guy who then went against the champion as well. Loved it. And I mean, Paul Orndorff for me, growing up, was amazing. I loved it. Yeah. That is a physique that, if you go back and look at him in WrestleMania 1, etc., amazing, right? Yeah. Plus, when he then left that's the turn at the end of that match. He goes on his run with Hogan as allies, and then he turns on Hogan. Yeah. And for me, I got that. So for me, WrestleMania 1, there's 2 parts to this. And this is where Sean Fuster and I differ greatly. Sean Fuster loved Hogan at that point, and he's all about Hogan. Yeah. I was all about Roddy Piper. And the argument is, did Hogan make Piper, or did you need Piper to make Hogan? My argument is, if Piper wasn't Piper, you wouldn't have the Hogan you have now. So that's the argument, and in between those two, professionally, that was always their professional stance as well. So for me, Piper was absolutely what made Hogan as big as he was, because he had that bad guy to beat, right? Yeah. But then you had Orndorff there. Orndorff comes across, and if you've not seen it, in 1986, when Orndorff actually turns on Hogan, it is the most amazing thing. And there is I want to say it's a Saturday night's main event or something where that happens. And I remember watching this as a kid. Yes, that's how old I am. I watched that, and immediately after Orndorff turns on Hogan in the ring, it cuts to a backstage promo, and it's Jake Roberts. Oh. And so for me, and to me, Gene and Jake, it means like Gene's going, "What have we just seen?" And Jake said, "What you've seen there is a man to do what he had to do." And I'm like, that is the best. You don't see you don't see guys taking a promo on someone else's situation, and just the way he didn't take it was brilliant. So for me, those 4 guys, because Scott Hall, for me, has got the best working punch I've ever seen in the game. Yeah. And there's some great ones out there, Jerry Lawler, etc. And there are some amazing punches out there. But for me, Scott Hall has the greatest punch. I mean, it was so good that The Rock stole it. If you don't believe me, go and watch. But yeah, Scott Hall, amazing. His Razor Ramon, even Diamond Stud, but then Razor Ramon, then going Scott Hall, obviously. Brilliant. Paul Orndorff, that early run was just amazing. And that guy was believable. There's no way, I mean, the story goes, I mean, he punched out Vader while wearing thongs, flip-flops, for God's sake. So, that's there. Jake Roberts, and I'll ask you this, have you ever seen me cut a promo where I've raised my voice and yelled? No. There's a reason for that, and that's Jake Roberts. Because if you watch Jake never did. Jake actually lowered his voice, and he slowed it down, and he made you come in to go, what's next? What is he about to say? So I learnt so much psychology and ring psychology of him. And Roddy Piper is just frenetic. The guy was never a wrestler, he was just a brawler, but his charisma and his ability to draw you into his character was just phenomenal. So there you go, there it is. So from Bret Hart and Kurt Hennig and Tully Blanchard as workers to the character work of Hall, Orndorff, Roberts and Piper, mate. And 5 minutes on that answer alone, mate. Sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's your show, man. I'm happy. Favourite match of yours?
Of mine? I got a few, and it's interesting because I went back and I do my research. I went back and watched. You had Ace Wilson on here.
Yes.
Real early
Season 1, Ace.
You did, and you actually watched one of our shows. Hello, Ace. Big shout out to you, big fella.
We did watch your match. Yeah.
We did watch that match from, and it's the last match that Ace and I. Actually, I want to be careful with that. Is that the last match we had? Because we did that, and we also did the Beer and Barbecue Fest. And that was right around the same time, and I can't remember which was first, which came second, but they were about the same time. Anyway, you watched the ACW match, and I like that because that's just Ace. He and I have wrestled each other so many times, and it's always a real joy to wrestle Ace, just because we know each other so well, and we know how we work, and we know how each other moves, and we know what's coming and what we're doing. But There's another match that he and I had, and it was actually the last match I ever had in Snake Pit before I joined RCW.
Oh, okay.
And it was, I either was going to win the Snake Pit title from Ace, or I was leaving the company. So it's title versus career, and we did it in a cage.
Cool.
And I know that you at one point, was it you and or Brody both said that a match you would love to have would be a cage match? Yes, I've done that. So here's, you know how I said earlier, like that foolishness of you need to listen to your body and only do what you do. So end of 2015, it was October 2015, I actually bulged 2 discs in my lower back. That's why I don't squat anymore, that and I have no knees left. But I bulged 2 discs in my back and I didn't realise it was that bad. I just thought I'd twinged something. Actually, when I was going away, I was over in Bali for 10 days after. Actually, it turned to be 17 because of the volcano. Good story. But I was training every day in the gym while I was over there. Could barely move, but I'd get myself mobile and then I'd free up and I'd train. Came back and I knew I was winding up at Snake Pit, and I spoke to Johnny Reddick. I watched his episode. Johnny, if you're watching, shout out to you.
The legends keep coming.
Oh mate, I've been around long enough to know them all. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I came back and we set it up that I had their version of the Money in the Bank briefcase. I can cash in any time, and I was I decided not to cash in. I teased it a bit, and then I actually said, no, I'm going to actually cash in and challenge you to this. And they said, that's fine, but if you do that, you're putting your career on the line. And we said, okay. Cool. So it was Boxing Day. We had a Boxing Day show, December 26th.
What? And
Ace and I went almost 30 minutes in the cage. And that was I love that match because I actually went to Ace and said, hey, I think I know how this works. I've got this, let me run you through this. And he went, okay, talk to me. And we basically did, I laid it out. This is what it looks like. This is how it plays out. And he just went, that's awesome. Let's do that. And that's what we did. And I didn't feel my back that day at all. I trained very sensibly up to that to get myself ready for to have that match. We went almost 30 minutes. It was an absolute privilege to have that match with him. I thanked him greatly for that. And we did the spot afterwards where, I didn't get to win, but I got to give him the belt to say, if it couldn't be me, I'm so glad it's you type thing. So that's one. Another one that's a favourite of mine was not long after I joined RCW, and that was the Key to the City match that I won. It's not even that I won that match. That was great because that set up some amazing stuff afterwards. There was myself and Zach Sabbath, and Zach I've known forever. Since when he started at High Risk Pro Wrestling, I met him there and he came in. I tagged him early on, him and Mike Boomer, and I've known him forever, so I've seen him sort of grow up. But we had 2 young guys in there. We had Davey Green, and we also had a very young Katie Trey. Right? Nice. And I remember going into that match that those boys were like, okay, we've done this before, we don't know how to run a ladder match, what do we do? And I remember Katie Trey particularly being sitting there going, how did I end up in this match with Tyler Daniels and Zach Sabbath in a ladder match? Like, what's going on? And that's fine. And the reason I love that match so much is for a peek behind the curtain. If you watch that match, the ladder organically appears everywhere it needs to for every spot, and you don't see anyone actually do it. I went, spoke to the boys, said, here we go, let's plot this out of how this works. So you don't literally see someone grab a ladder and put it here and set up. No, the ladder is organically moved around. You don't see it, and we all took some pretty brutal bumps on that. Zach and Katie Trey went from the top of the ladder. They did a brilliant setup at the top where Katie bites Zach's hand. Zach hits him with the mist at the same time on top of the ladder. It was brilliant. I push them over, they hit the top rope and go to the outside, and then that was also basically the culmination of the mini feud between myself and Davey Green when I sort of introduced him. I came up commentary, and he and I went that, and he played a gusher in that match. But it just he hit me with everything he had. I hit him with a flat line off the top of the ladder out of the corner, which I do remember. Again, I grabbed him and just said, I love you, kid. As we went, we hit that. It was that match was so good in the fact that it took the match ever it needed to go, and it just worked so brilliantly. I was so happy and proud that all four of us pulled it off the way we did, because that's hard to make them fluent. You can do bits and pieces, but to make them fluent and go. So that's another one of my favourites as well. So there's probably a shitload I'm forgetting.
We'll see them.
I'm sure we will. Can't wait for that.
You've been around a lot, but dream opponent currently in Australian wrestling?
Look, dream opponent for me, I thought, as I said, I watched your questions from others, and I thought about it, and there's probably a few dream opponents, and I was really intrigued that Crackerjack gets a bit of a mention all over and over.
He gets on here a bit.
I've met Crackers a few times, never had the privilege in the ring, and that'd be great.
I hope he's watching Crackers.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, absolutely. Get over here and get on the show, because you have got some amazing knowledge and experience and been around for so long. Would love to hear you. Beyond that though, for me, here's another one for you. Chris Basso. And I know he gets said all the time. I have a different reason for that.
Okay.
Chris Basso and I have never worked a match together. We've never worked each other. No, and I think the closest we've come is we may have been in the same rumble at very different parts. That's about as close as we've ever got.
How?
Here's the thing. So Chris Basso and he had been training for a bit and had done some muck around stuff, but he classes his very first match, his technical first break-in debut match, was on the very same card that I debuted.
Yeah. He
was the opening match and I was the second match. So he loves to tell everyone he's been doing this for 10 minutes longer than I have. And here's another thing for you, tidbit trivia piece. As we record this, it might actually happen to be Chris Basso's birthday today. So if you're watching Seabass, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
The unfortunate thing about that is I also saw how old he is, and that just tears me apart, because I'm nowhere near that age anymore. But he is at the top of his game, getting better and better at his age, and he's brilliant. And look, I don't even know if I've got the goods to go with him like I'd like to. I think 5-10 years ago, when I was a younger man and had a bit more pith and vigour about me, would have been amazing. But I say Chris only because he and I have never hooked it up in the ring before.
Amazing,
I mean, we've punched each other a few times at training and stuff like that and mucked around, but we've never got in the ring and actually had a go. So for me, I mean, I've done his brother. Let me take that back. I've wrestled Maddie. I've wrestled everyone, kind of a lot of other people. Yeah. One other person who I would really love to, and is actually a good mate of mine outside that, is Robbie Hart. I just think I've known Robbie for a long time. He and I get along really well outside of this. Yeah. Just a top bloke. We similar sort of senses of humour. I've laughed backstage with him in a number of shows, and always great when I catch up with Robbie. And I actually even said to him just after I did my show, I said, if I get back before this is all said and done, I would love to pull. And he goes, mate, let's make something happen. It'll be great. So Robbie would be another one. Chris doesn't ever have, and Robbie because he's just a brilliant bloke. Yeah. So
great wrestler too. He had some banger matches at Tumby Bay, that bloke.
Oh, he's a good fella.
He's a great wrestler.
He is.
Wrestler in Australian wrestling, you were challenged to a drinking competition.
Yeah, right. Well, these days...
Maybe when you're in your prime.
Yeah, mate. I need 6 months head start to get back into some sort of form. Drinking competition. I can't say Brody Marshall, because he and I, we went at that a few times. we did our best together a few times. There's a couple of seedy nights out. In fact... I know he didn't mention it, but I'm going to break that fourth. He and I actually went to Bali together on a gentleman's foray, and we did our best to try and drink Bali dry on that trip. That was that's as far as I'm going with the story.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just to say we had a fair crack in it. It was good fun.
We're M-rated, not R-rated.
Exactly. So. Hello, Brody from Manchester to Michigan. You'll know what I mean. But beyond that, look, there's a couple of events, and I'm going to take the easy option. I know Down Under's been, his card's been pulled a few times.
He's always
A, because he loves a drink, and B, for me, that the challenge in that, the drinking competition, it'd be as much fun in drinking and having a laugh at that as it would be about the actual competition. So, and I think he and I would talk a whole lot of shit to each other.
I think the competition will be trying to understand both of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely, mate. We're at the start of it, mate. Not at the end of it. We're at the start of it. But yeah, I think I'll call Downey's card on that one.
All right, Downey, that's probably a 10th challenge. So we got to get you on here and Start drinking competitions.
I reckon, mate, it's going to get to a point where Danny's just going to have a where it's just going to be him and a whole people, a massive table, and everyone just go.
Well, Down Under was the #1 episode, first ever episode. So 4 seasons in, maybe we'll have to drag him back and bring on the challenges.
Well, I was going to say he's got a lot.
So you can knock him down throughout the challenge.
Absolutely.
Throughout the episode, we'll smash him. Your most embarrassing moment in the ring?
My most embarrassing moment in the ring, mate, probably the first 10 years of my career. And I have no doubt that I don't even need to answer that at this stage, because I'm pretty sure that coming up you're going to have some fucking awful photos of my early wrestling career. So I'm going to...
The internet wasn't around back then. So.
Oh, mate, trust me, the internet may not be around, but there's enough footage going around. So I'm sure you're going to bring some of that. So I'll hold my answer on that, and I'll see which one is the most embarrassing that you've got for me. Because as I said, probably the first 10 years in my career. So.
Fair enough. What are your current wrestling goals?
That's an interesting one, mate. I don't necessarily have any real burning wrestling goals. Like I can't say there's nothing that I'm going, I have to come back, so I have to do that.
Yeah.
I'm at a stage in my career and life where I can be pretty selective.
Yeah.
And for me, it would be coming back for a purpose and a reason, as I said. And you know, something like if there was a situation that called for it and it made sense to an overall piece, a run against Chris Basso would be a reason. That'd be something up there. Be able to, for me, tick off some lists like Robbie Hart, for example. I got to wrestle Havoc a year and a half or so ago when I won the Power Slam title. So stuff like that, that's tick off stuff like that.
Basso has just turned his back on his best mate, his life partner, so he's going to start wreaking havoc, I think. So maybe we need some saviour to come in.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you've got to measure that up against who his last partner was, though. And let's be honest, there's probably a good 2/3 to 3/4 of that locker room who would have done the exact same thing. So, and I can tell you some stories about that young fella, Matt Hayter, because, mate, I can tell you the very first time I met him too. I don't know. I'll say that you may have some pictures.
We may have some photos.
I'll say
finish the couple of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
We'll get into the banger stories later. Match type that you would never compete in?
Match type I would never compete in.
If there's any that you haven't done.
Yeah, look, and I was interested because I didn't know what I would say to that, and then I did hear Brody talk about a death match with light tubes and stuff like that. I think that's probably for me. That would be something I wouldn't do, and it's I've got to be honest and say it's not even about the violence and for me the fact that it's light tubes and all that. To me, that's not pure wrestling, and for those who love that and that's their thing, hey, that's what they have a smorgasbord for, because everyone likes something different.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I get that, and there's a niche for that.
Yeah.
That to me is not my style. It's not what I grew up on. That's not a wrestling contest for me. If you've ever seen me wrestle, that's not my style.
Yeah, no,
so
fair enough.
Deathmatch is probably not the one. I don't mind hardcore stuff. I've done that, and I've done bleeding and what you name it.
Yeah.
Ladder matches, cage matches, and all that stuff's great because they've all got their place. First blood matches, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Going to that's probably just not my thing. So
no, that's fair enough. And what would you love to compete in that you haven't done?
What would I love to compete in that I haven't done? Look, I've done them. You know what I'd love to see come back, and I would, because some of my favourite, there's a couple of my favourite matches that were 2 out of 3 falls.
Oh,
I love a great 2 out of 3 falls match because you can build some really cool, just suspense and anticipation through that process.
Yeah,
and it's odd because it's not a ladder match, or it's not a TLC match or a cage match or a hardcore match, anything like that. But something like that. I mean, I look just on that. I've done hardcore matches. I've done a cage match. I've done ladder matches. Even what made me just twig on that is when Brody was on here, I did a strap match with Brody.
Yeah,
I've done that. One that I haven't done that I'd be interested to do, and I know it's been done a couple times now, dog collar match. Just only because, again, it's another element that it's an old school thing. It's that whole concept of you can't get away. So you've got to really think about how do you make that mean something, and how do you keep 2 people tethered like that, similar to a strap match. Like if you go back and look at that, like we thought that through and made that mean a lot of how we structured that. So something like that is probably I'd probably.
We do have a wild dog running loose at the top of RCW at the moment. So
and he's done a couple of dog.
He loves a dog.
He does. He's done a few of those, and I have a lot of admiration for him for doing that because I know he loves old school style stuff, and he's pulled those out. So yeah, let's get a dog collar match with that one.
Strap match, strap to your hand, or would be okay. Around your neck though.
Mate, that adds an element because that's really dangerous. I mean, that is really dangerous around the throat for sure, and you can easily pull a neck and damage stuff. So it's just another element that adds to it. So
no, that's fair enough. Last question of the 10. We've been going for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What is wrestling missing today?
Storytelling. Straight up. And
I had a feeling. I wrote that over here. I was going to answer.
It's storytelling, mate. And I say that because, and this is going to blow out. This is at least 5 minutes on this alone. Storytelling for me,
listen up, kids.
Absolutely. The old man's talking. So yeah, back in my day, the guys who trained me and taught me storytelling. So for me, it's always wrestling. People think wrestling is a physical thing. It's not a physical thing. It's a mental thing. It's psychology. The physicality just paints the picture of what the psychology is. So if you want, psychology prints out paint by numbers for you. You get that psychology right. The physicality of the moves literally just paints those dots in that makes that picture, right? That's, for me, it's storytelling. It's not what you can do, it's why do you do it? And it's about why don't I do that now? And that for me that's what it's all about, because everyone can go out and do 100 massive, big, high-flying moves, huge impact moves. Two parts to that. If you hit me with 3 or 4 of your biggest moves and I jump up because now it's my turn and I come back, 3 or 4 of your biggest moves meant nothing because they didn't do any impact, they didn't have any effect on me, right? If you do one of those and I sell that and I can tell the story of, Jesus, that wrecked my neck, or, oh my God, my shoulder's stuffed, or my legs now, that's telling that story. Now there's something to work on. How do we build that? How do I overcome that? Or how do I use that? Or if I'm the one that's injured someone, how do I use that to tell that story? How do they overcome it? Or is that their point of weakness? So it's telling a story. It's what you do, and even importantly, what you don't do and when you do it. So if you I would tell anyone who cares to take 75 minutes to listen to what I've got to say.
Everyone should be taking notes on this.
Mate, anytime I have a match with someone, the first thing I say is, okay, so what's the story we're telling? What do we need people to think, feel, and have when we come out of this match? What does that need to tell? Great. So if that's the story we need to tell, how do we get there? What's the ending that's going to really show that? Great. Now let's work back. How do we start off that gets us in that, and how do we make that story up to get us there? After that, we can plug moves in that get us through that process. That's it. That's the way I've always come at it. So
awesome.
So there you go.
That's a really good. I had a feeling that would be the answer, and I like the in-depth answer to that. So that brings us to the end of the 10. We do have a bonus question though.
Oh, excellent.
So RCW obviously is your main promotion that you've been working at the moment. So in your opinion, excluding yourself, who are your top 3 wrestlers in Wright City at the moment?
At the moment?
You can split it into genders if you want, or you can just go straight up wrestlers, your 3 top wrestlers.
Oh, mate, that's a tough one. Look, top 3 today in RCW. I'm going to throw Nick Armstrong in there, and these are in no order. I'm going to throw Nick Armstrong in there and for me for a couple of reasons. I've known Nick for a number of years, and regardless of what he's doing, whether you like him or don't, he's professional. He's as professional as he gets. He takes himself, and I mean this in the nicest way, himself and the way he brings himself to match training is incredibly professional. So I've got so much admiration for that guy and the way he does everything around to get into that moment. Super professional, and as great as he is, he's still such an underrated talent. His knowledge and understanding, his ability to again tell stories and understand why you do what you do. And I mean, he's had the really good privilege and fortune of going over to Canada and training in Light Storm, and he's brought that back. And I love listening to Nick, and I love when Nick takes trainings. I love listening to why he explains what he does to folks. I always find myself really listening, paying attention, and going, oh shit. And you know what? Sometimes it's not even about what I learn. I learn that's actually why I do that. And he's so great at that, breaking stuff down. So Nick Armstrong, absolutely. And the other piece for me with Nick is when Nick turned to his champ persona, I was so dubious because I went, you are such a great, the crowd loves you and you've been so good at that for so long. How are you going to pull this off? And I put my hand up and go, I was so wrong in that assessment because he has owned that champ persona and he has absolutely owned it and has done such a good run with that. So Nick Armstrong, I can get off Nick's bandwagon now. Hello, Nick. Who else? Look, I think just for the progression of where he's got to, Katie Trey's done an amazing job.
Yeah, nice.
Because, and the reason I say that is he's not, I don't think he'll ever be the most technically proficient, and I know he won't take that as a criticism. He gets that because I know his influences and his styles. But where he's come from, and I go back to when we had that ladder match, I know who he was and how he was at that point, and I know how much he just wanted to do that so well. And was so nervous at doing it just because he didn't want it to fuck up. He just wanted it to be great at it, and he held his own in that and did so much. And to see that same guy now be where he is, who he is, and having watched the work he's done, the hard work he's put in for himself, on himself, and beyond himself, behind the scenes to get this opportunity and to run this opportunity. I'll throw Katie in there for that. I feel like I need to give some honourable mentions because to pull it down to 3, and I'm trying really hard because
it's alright. No one's gonna hold bad feelings.
No, but it's a case of there's so many I want to talk up, and one guy that I don't even want to talk about because he's kind of in there by default, and therefore I don't even want to talk about is Chris Basso. How do you go past that guy? Right, he's the backbone, the cornerstone, the foundation, the franchise, whatever name you want to use, but it's because he's that fucking good, and that's the truth of it. He's that good at what he does. And he's one of those guys who can just do it, and it doesn't matter whether he's done it before or not. I reckon I can do that, and just pulls it off flawlessly every time. But then he can go away and he can teach someone else and train someone else to do it, and that's a very different skill set. And he's so encouraging of everyone through the process. So as I said, I don't want to talk about him, and I just fucking have again. So I don't want to put him in there because it's by default he's there anyway. My third one, a breath of fresh air. I'm going to throw Delta in there, and the reason I'm going to throw Delta. See, this is where I want to give honourable mentions because I actually want to give an honourable mention to Ina as well, Ina Strange, and even his partner Baron. I think they're great at what they do, and Amber, you're in there too. You haven't done anything on as well, but I'm going to throw Delta, and that's because I think I'm really interested to see what Delta does from here because. As good as you might be already, which is not as good as you think you are, but that's okay because you have the ability and the potential to be even better than you think you are right now. I want to see you fulfill that potential because I think you can, and I think you are phenomenally gifted with what you have now. But just remember that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So don't ever lose that. You've got the talent. I really want to see you work hard to get somewhere and be even more than what you are. So I'm going to throw Delta in there as well because that's kind of a backhanded challenge to her as well. And I'm sure she'll appreciate that. And even if she doesn't, bad luck.
She'll be watching, so she'll take it on board.
Well, she will be.
Since you're in the pumping up mood, on the back end of that, 3 up-and-comers that you have your eye on.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'll be honest, the up-and-comers I haven't seen a lot of or enough of. There's 2 that come to mind I've seen a little bit of. And that is Mr. Clift. I think from a charisma persona perspective, he has a lot going for him. He's got a lot of rough edges that need to be smoothed and sanded off. And if he can get that and get his work in the ring a little bit more schmick and a little bit more polished. And by that I mean a lot more polished. And he again will understand that I am.
He's only what 2 matches in, so,
something like that. And you know, as much as I'm being critical of him, he knows that I'm being critical of him, and he'll actually take that in the right way. But I think Mr. Clift, I like the persona and how that plays out. And I think that's got a lot of potential. So for me, it's as much that as it is the physical stuff.
Yep.
Couple of guys for me as well beyond that. There's a young guy called Vinny who I've seen a little bit of, and by all accounts, I've had a number of people mention his name to me, and that's always a good sign that other people, and from different areas. It wasn't 3 people standing together talking about that. It was from 3 different situations that a couple of people have mentioned this name. So I've kind of cast my eye in. I happened to see actually him and Mr. Cliff were in an 8-man match at the end of last year.
Brighton,
and it actually came down to the 2 of them. And look, both of them did a really good showing for what they had at that point, and I think both of them got a very good opportunity. Yep. One guy that I think has got, again, so much of this game, you know, is good fortune of physical capability, right?
Yeah.
One guy that I think that has that, as long as he pulls his head out of his arse and listens to the right people, is a young fella called Sarge. I think from just the physicality and the capability in that sense, he has all the attributes. I'm just a little concerned on who he might be taking his advice from at the moment, but that's okay. That's something we live and learn.
Is he the guy they call Cut for it?
Oh, look, I don't know what name he wants to go by, but it could be. But I think he's
teamed up with those fucking
that's what I mean, right? So, I mean, the last thing you want to do is listen to a guy called Ben Rosenthal, for goodness sake. So, as long as he kind of starts getting his advice in the right place, I think he's got a really good opportunity to do something as well.
Yeah, nice. All right, awesome. Well, thank you very much for all those answers, mate. I don't care how long it takes, or took, sorry. Me and Sean talked for 2 hours.
I was going to say, you almost 2 hours. You almost put 2 hours with Sean, mate. So
it's one of the most viewed episodes. So
there you go.
There you go. Quality you get always wins. So
no, but Sean's done. He's gone out to his social media group and all of his everyone who follows him for his news. There's another news story he was covering. So they all tuned in.
Hey, if it gets me subscribers, I'm more than happy.
Mate, hopefully they come back for this one. You've now got a sponsor that give you, so hopefully we can shift some product and move some in.
Exactly. So we can start selling some merch. We just need a Shifty Lizard poster up here.
That's it, boys.
Get this clean for them.
Get on it, boys.
I know you're watching. I'm going to send it to you. But no, awesome. Thank you for that. Really appreciate you going into those.
Beautiful.
So we're going to get these pictures fired up. I'm going to go through that.
Perfect.
But I think you need a drink.
I was going to say, let's do that before we do that. That's all right.
We've got your drink.
We have.
Got the pictures fired up. Now, Shifty Lizard, don't be mad.
I was going to say, before we kick in, so I'm going a 0% non-alcoholic beer. I've deliberately turned the label around because I don't want to upset the Shifty boys. However, I do want to put a challenge out to the Shifty Lizard boys.
Ooh.
How about you boys work on a 0% alcohol? Because if you want to sponsor this show, this man right here can be your full tote odds. And if you're looking for someone that will then promote your 0% to get that market going, I'll take that side of it on for you as well. So there's a challenge out to the Shifty boys. I know a few blokes who talk very, very highly of the old Session Ales and the Shifty Lizard range. Challenge for you boys. I know you're watching. Come up with a 0% alcohol. I'll come back. I'll promote that. I'll even come back and do an opening commercial with this bloke to talk about you don't have to do it. But there you go. So I've deliberately turned the label around, boys. I don't want to upset anyone, but you've also you're on notice. There's a challenge for you.
And that will help with me when we get the big drinkers on here, like down under and that I can't keep up with. I could
absolutely
train along with the 0%ers and make out I'm part of the team. But no, awesome challenge, boys. So we'll be in touch. But photos are ready.
Oh boy, here we go.
We're going to start now. The timeline is a bit whacked.
That's
because I just found where I could find them.
Mate, anything from the first 10 years is going to be whacking itself, so don't worry about it, mate.
Little bit recent, probably the last 5 or 6 years, and then we go back a little bit. But anyway,
butter me up and then hit me with the bad stuff.
Exactly.
I see where you're going.
We'll start with number 1.
Okay.
Here's photo number 1. Not so bad, see? Not so bad to start with.
Okay, so...
Big beard.
Yeah, big beard. I can tell you... You know what I can tell you right now is... that is an AWA show for Brawls.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think if that is the night. It wasn't that match, but I actually used that photo for an Instagram promo for when I was actually wrestling Matt Hayter. So I used that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to think. I don't think that was the match that Matt Hayter and I had.
I think, just to cut you off there, I think this is a promo photo for that.
Well, there you go. Exactly. So there you go. So maybe it was. You can see myself and Matt Hayter in the bottom right hand corner. So funniest thing about that. So I
look at that pose.
Who, me or him?
Dude.
Mate, that is, I can tell you right now, that pose, that's probably one of the first promo poses I did like that, because I didn't always look like that. And finally I had
some traps.
A little bit of a rig that I could,
a little bit of
a rig that I could get out there for that. So, all right, we're going straight to the Matt Hayter story, obviously, because we have to, right? So, here's the thing, you can tell that there how young he looks, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I tell you what, in fact, I reckon there's a young fella that rolls around RCW at the moment that looks very much like that isn't Matt Hayter. And if you know who I mean. He's probably a super fan. But he rolls around, I'll tell you what, he needs to get a better idea of who he wants to be when he gets older too. Jeez, anyway, so young Matt Hayter. I remember the first time I saw him, we're at Snake Pit, and I had come into a training session, and there's this young kid in the ring, and he's doing some stuff, and I'm standing there, and I'm watching for a bit. I'm talking to a few people, and trying to think who. I think I had Johnny Reddick next to me. I think I was talking to him. I don't think Johnny was in there with it working, or maybe Johnny was in there talking to someone else. Can't remember that part, but
yeah. I'm
watching this kid, and I'm watching, and I'm looking, and he's got on his shorts from his high school, and it's got his high school logo on there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay. And so I've said to someone, who's this kid? And they've told me his name. I'm like, okay, how old is he? 15. I'm like, why have we got a 15-year-old in here, right? It's okay. And the reason it struck me, what actually caught me, was the shorts he was wearing and the logo of the high school on there. I'm not going to say which one it was, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, my daughter goes to that high school. And I'm watching, and come to know in a few years as we would progress, because he started training and became a rookie, etc. And especially backstage in the locker room, he's always been a smart ass. Nothing's changed, right? He's had a bigger mouth than he deserves to have, and it absolutely gets him into way too much trouble. But he's always been like that. And the problem is that's very much how I was and grew up. And so I saw a lot of me in that. And so he kind of gravitated. So backstage, and if you ever get him on here, you ask him...
I've been trying. Mate, he knows I've been trying.
So if you ever get him on here, you ask him about some of the stories backstage at the Snake Pit locker room, where I would sit at one end, and it was basically Veterans Corner. I would walk up there, and none of the rookies would come up, and then I'd get him to come up and sit, and I'd talk to him and stuff. And I tell that story to say, the high school shorts he's wearing, he was in the same class as my daughter. So he went to high school with my daughter, and funnily enough, tie that in, Jimmy C was in their class as well. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, my eldest daughter is the same age and went to high school with Matt Hayter. And what is really scary about that is later on I have wrestled Matt Hayter a number of times, which is just like wrestling my own kid at times. So that's a horrible circumstance. That match though, hilariously, we were both working as heels.
Yeah.
And we got booked in that match, and we both said, well, what are we going to do? Like, what the hell are we going to do here? And I went, okay, we're both wrestling heels. He goes, how's that going to work? I said, we're wrestling a comedy match. He goes, what do you mean? I said, hear me out. And we had another alumni of your show, Mr. Alex Alexson, or as I like to call him, Anus Anuson. He will love that. You know that's your name. You have ever since. I actually called him that at the end of a match one night, and the entire crowd at Snake Pit called him that, chanted that to him. So Anus Anuson. He was refereeing, and I said, so what we do is we get Alex over. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, so if you go back and find that, it's a AWS, or Australian Wrestling, also AWA match. We come out, and we do a headlock spot where we reverse, I reverse him, he reverses on, and actually ends up grabbing Alex in a headlock. And what happens is Alex shoots Hayter off, and then shoulder blocks Hayter, and then turns around and shoulder blocks me, and everyone goes nuts, right? So we start getting Alex over, and he thinks he's amazing. First and only time you've ever been over, Alex. So later on in the match, we do a whole thing, and it was basically who can out cheat the other one was the whole story you're telling. So we go outside, do a whole of stuff, come back inside, and one thing, because it's a psychology piece, you see it all the time, and I'll call it out. I don't like trade-offs, like they're punching someone in the face for the sake of it. That I don't. It's not my thing. Yeah. So I went, we're gonna do a trade-off of eye pokes, and literally as we start to get up, we're eye poking each other back and forth to the point where we're going and that's the point where I say, Alex, at this point you come over and check on us, and as you come over, you go, are you boys all right? And you actually eye poke both of us. And again, the whole crowd is chanting Alex. So we got Alex over in that match. Nice, it was great. So I love doing stuff like that because one more thing about that match, and I apologise to everyone who's ever seen a Matt Hayter match because of this. You'll hear Matt Hayter's music come on, and then about anywhere from 60 seconds to 4.5 minutes later, he will come out, right? Yeah. That is the match he learnt that. And if you ask him, he'll tell you, because he came out and got introduced first, and then my music hits, I come out and everyone's like, and there wasn't much reaction. So I literally came out and walked around the ring and eyeballed everyone and then walked straight backstage. Didn't tell anyone I was going to do it. So I walked backstage and everyone's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. And like, what's going on? I went, just keep the music playing. I'm like, why? I went, they've paid their money. They're on my time. They'll get the show when I'm ready for it, right? And I waited, and I just waited, and I waited, and I could see, as a leader, I could see Hayter's face like, what the fuck is going on? And I waited, and then eventually I walked back out, and I stopped, and I went, are we ready now? And the whole crowd just went, wah! And I went, great, now we have a match. So I apologise, because Matt Hayter has done that since that day. So every 4.5 minute pause from music to Hayter's entrance is my fault. There you go, there's Matt Hayter for you, in a nutshell.
I love it. And just quickly on that poster, look at the swarm of talent that we have all over that poster.
Amazing, right?
Like, we got Rocky, of course, Maniac,
if you ever get Rocky on here and ask him about that match, I can tell you, I watched the scariest attempt at a superplex I've ever seen, which I thought Rocky was going to die. I thought he was going to die, and if you ask him, he will tell you the same thing. I thought he was going to die in that match. Wow. Anyway.
You got Jonah Rock, you got Havoc, Johnny Raddick.
Elliot Sexton's in there.
Yeah, Elliot Sexton's today.
Mike
Boomer. Is that Link?
Link,
young Link.
You've also got
next to these two? I don't know.
Giant Coyote from up in Queensland, and for anyone who's followed the scene knows about that.
Did he just come back?
No, he hasn't come back. He, unfortunately, he broke his ankle really badly a few years ago, and it never quite healed. Yeah. And it was, I think, about the start of last year, he ended up having to have it amputated. And I don't want to tell his story for him, but amazing story to watch. That guy is just phenomenal from a sense of he never lost his spirit. And he was just, okay, so that's happened. Let's go, gang. Follow my story. We're going to do this. And his enthusiasm for life, just to get back. Yeah. And he's followed his whole story from when he had it. He was in the hospital doing videos from that, just operation after operation. And his whole progress back to now having, an awesome. He's got a massive Batman logo on his artificial leg, but his heart and soul in that amazing. So absolutely. And I want to think, is that Blake Stone, I think, with him as well, which I've known throughout the years. Yeah. As you said, having King Johnny at that point versus Mr. Juicy or Gambino. Who is just a right side of the ring. And down the bottom there, you've got
Valente.
You've got Valente and a very young Davey Green. Yeah, absolutely. After he came out of the mask and came out to Davey Green, and I had my first foray into Riot City was with Davey, and I helped make him love to the crowd because I beat the shit out of him. So I love it. Yeah, great poster, great night. And I've been backstage with a lot of those guys and told a lot of great stories.
Here we go, next one.
Now,
just before, why do you look older there? And then you're through there.
Mate, it's poor lighting. That
Look like Jesus stumbling out of the
mate,
mate.
it looks like as if Jesus was trying to play Santa Claus there, mate.
Zombie.
I'm trying to think. You know what that is? I can
Key
tell
to
you.
the City?
It started the Key to the City match because you can see the ladder in the foreground there, and that was literally me. You anyone who's seen me knows I have my pose when I come out, and I did that. But that was just me just taking in the gravity of, holy shit, there's ladders here. What are we going to do in this moment? So, that's Key to the City. As I say, if you haven't seen that match, that is one of my favourites. Yeah.
Check it out, guys. It'll be on the Ask W YouTube. Here we go. Katie Trey.
That is in that match.
That's in that match.
That is the Key to the City ladder match. So you can see how young Katie looks there, which tells you how long I've been doing this because how old I look now. So, as I say, very young Katie, and he was, as I said, very nervous going into that match. Just wanted to make sure it was a great match and he did everything right. Just didn't want to stuff something up, and he held all four guys, myself included, but the other three guys, amazing work. We hit some really great stuff. Some really clever. That's just such a cleverly put together match. You can see Zach on the apron there as well. Yeah, and everyone just knew where to be, how to be.
Yeah, nice. Here we go, winner.
Correct. Finally got to the top of that ladder. And the funny thing about that was I said to Wolf Dog was on commentary that night, and Wolf Dog and I go back a very long way as well. And I said to him, if I actually win and I'm on top of that ladder, if I've won and I am okay and I'm not injured, I will fall off the ladder. If I happen to win but I am stuffed and can't do it, I will walk down the ladder. And I got up there, and if you watch, I take one step down and then remember I told Wolfie and I actually fall off the ladder. But yeah, that was, as I say, we all took a beating in that match, but for such a good result. Yeah.
Yeah. No, nice.
And it set up a great storyline.
There it is.
There, exactly.
Picking you up after you fall.
Helping me out of the ring, absolutely. Correct. Absolutely.
It's like these pictures are just going with the story.
As if I knew what was coming.
Oh, here we go.
This bloke. So, this bloke. I'm just trying to think. This must have been, I reckon this is when. So, I won the Key to the City, and I'm not sure where if it is anymore, but I won the Key to the City, and that same year, we're getting towards the end of the year, and it was culminating in Big Brody Marshall versus Grimm.
Yep.
Right? And they had, must have been Battle for Supremacy, the last match of the year, last show of the year, and Grimm finally beat Brody for the belt. And he beat him, but they beat the shit out of each other like they always do.
Yeah.
And I came out to cash in, and as I went to cash in on Grimm, Brody pop-up powerbombed me. And that is the last thing that happened for the year. Everyone goes home, right?
Yeah.
So, awesome. So, there is a promo I cut at the start of the year before the first show that at the old RCW gym, where I'm walking through and I am looking for Brody. I'm steaming hot. Where is he? I throw people. I throw Sean up against the way. I grab Joe Greco, put him up against the door. I am steaming looking for him. And it was building to the fact that I want answers. What do you think you're doing? I want Brody first show back.
Yeah.
And it built to this, and we both came out and we went nose to nose, and the crowd is just building, waiting for this, and we shoved each other ready to go, and we both cocked back and had this huge right hand, and as we came in, we both stopped and hugged. Because we went, you know what? We are the two of us are too big a force to go at each other. There's more damage we can do the whole RCW roster together. And that was amazing because the crowd just ate it up and loved it and hated the fact that we fooled them. We just got them right in the palm of the hand. It was an amazing moment, and we just turned and laughed at the whole crowd. And then funnily enough, we're not wrestling, forget that. And Big Tom, Chunky Tom, who was the GM at that point, came out and then, oh yes, you will be wrestling, and immediately made a Teddy Long style, player, made a match against us as a tag team versus Katie Trey and Adam Brooks.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, one of only 2 times I faced Brooksy.
There you go, what a team.
Yeah, there you go.
Katie loves Brooksy. And here they are.
And that was the result. That was the result of that fooling the whole crowd. We formed a team known as the Savage Gentlemen. As you can see, they're the only 2 Savage Gentlemen t-shirts ever in existence.
Really?
Yep. And I wish I knew what happened to them, because I would love to have that t-shirt back. And the funny part about that was we were talking around some stuff, and I came up with the name, and I went, "Hey, this is us," and Brett's like, "Brilliant." And he sent me a picture. He'd just been at work one day doodling, and he literally just did the outline of the hair and beard of both of us. So if you have a look at that t-shirt, as you look it up on the left-hand side, that's Brody's outline. Yeah. On the right is my outline. And I got the font and stuff done, and I had those t-shirts printed out, and he didn't even know I was doing it. And for our first match out, that we were officially coming out as a tag team of Savage Gentlemen, I said, "Here's your t-shirt." And he went, "Oh my God, this is amazing." So we came out, and that team was amazing. So I don't know if you've got any other photos of that, but there's some amazing promo shots that we did.
We got some photos, I reckon.
Awesome.
See what we can find. Oh, no, here's you beating up Nick.
Yeah, so we ran a whole thing where we were a tag team, but we didn't always work as a tag team. But even if it was a singles match, the other was out there as a second. So this was a match I had against Nick, and I managed to eke out a victory against a very jubilant and nice Nick Armstrong back then.
No champ baby there.
No, not there.
Oh, here we go.
There you go. So there you go.
So supporting.
Exactly. So Brody was wrestling that night, and as you can see, that was the official Savage Gentleman uniform.
Ooh,
dress pants, with a t-shirt, and some lovely wide braces.
Nice.
It was, as I said, the gentleman all the way, but savage when we needed to. We keep it nice and light, but when we get dark, we get pitch black. So. We had a lot of fun. That was a gift. I still have people to this day that tell me, "I wish that had have lasted longer. That had so much more life in it."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, just things didn't work out that way. But so much fun.
No, that's fair enough. Here we go. Winners.
So you saw that I had the key to the city. What I decided to do was the Rude Ones had a match, and what we did was Brody came out with a microphone on the stage and was having a go at them on the microphone. I actually came in through the front door, through the crowd, into the ring, hit Bulldog, then grabbed Marvel, cashed in, and we won the tag belts with the key. So nice. I am the only person so far to ever win 2 belts with 1 key.
There you go. There you go.
And that made us the second tag team champions in the company. First one's been the Rude Ones.
Oh, really?
They were the first, and then me pulling that Swifty meant that we were the second tag team champions.
Yeah, no way. I thought it would have been around longer than that.
No. So this would have been 2016, I reckon. 15, 16.
Okay.
Maybe early 17.
Yeah.
Maybe early 17, I reckon.
Long time ago, definitely.
Oh, he's up.
Oh, well, you know. Oh, here we go. What's the specs?
Yeah, no, that was as I said, classy, Savage Gentleman. Always.
Look at that.
Yeah, that was come out, and that was very possibly. Now that is a full shirt this time, so I don't think that was it. But we literally did have it where we were able to come out. We would come to the ring dressed with the Savage Gentleman t-shirts, braces, and that, and we could take that off and have a gear underneath. So it was brilliant. Obviously, we're out there doing our chicanery. As you can see, I'm playing up to it, and Brody's there giving me due props we both deserved. And you can see in the background, Savage Gem. We had some, and
you're in Tron, beautiful.
Mate, the song that we had for that was brilliant. It's called Out of the Black.
Okay.
By a band called Royal Blood, and it is so good. So it's amazing.
Royal Blood,
it's amazing opening drum beat, and literally we played that the first time. The crowd like, who or what? We walked out and went, oh my god. The second time we came out, that drum beat hit.
Yeah. The
next show. And people went fucking nuts because they already knew straight away, they already knew what it was.
Yeah.
And when that drum beat kicked in, and we waited until the guitar part kicks in, and people were just ready for it, loved it. Nice. So such a good, the whole thing just worked so well as a package.
Good song. And now the strap match. It all fell apart.
And then we had this strap match, and I think the only one there that knew he wasn't going to copper hide him was Michael Kent. we both knew we were going to copper hiding, and that was okay. We knew what we were in for, and I heard Brody talk about this in his episode, and he said that we beat the living hell out of each other, and we did.
Yeah.
And
well, fun fact, young Jared was in the crowd.
Yes, I did. I did hear you talk about that. So I'm interested. To hear about your take on that. Apparently, you'd taken the lovely other half to the football, and then raced to the wrestling.
We did.
I've met your other half.
One of the first shows.
She's a lovely lady, and I can't believe this was a date choice that your choice or hers.
It was mine.
Yeah, thought it might have been. For her. Look, she's a keeper. If she stuck around after this, she's a keeper.
Yes, definitely.
I'm interested to hear, where were you sitting, and what was your take on it?
I was sitting directly on the other side of the stage. So you got your entrance way, and I'm over the other side, door side.
So you're facing the stage?
Facing the stage.
Okay, cool. So we would have walked straight past you.
So you walked right past me, and you slammed him on those. One of you got slammed on those T seating big boards right behind me.
Yep.
It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously a fan of wrestling and all that shit, but to see that up close, personal, and to see a seat that I've sat on and seen someone getting slammed onto that. So was a bit,
Yeah, that there, we worked to that. I hit him on that. I went up to actually get him, and as I did, he managed to wrap the strap behind my feet and pulled it, which pulled my feet out from under me. And that's when I landed on that. And then he was polite enough that when I was there, grabbed me and dragged me along off of there into a bid. So that was lovely. Then dragged me across the floor back to the barricade, at which point he put me over, and I managed to catch him at that point. Gave me a lovely suplex on the outside as well. And look, my own foolishness, I was up on the apron on the outside wanting to hit him. He pulled me off, and literally I flipped off of that and landed on my back on the outside. Oh. So, as I say, brutal match. I did also hear him talk about the fact that he copped a strap to the face, and he did, and that is one moment I will never forget, because if you go back and watch that, and I can tell you, it's the corner between the bar and the door.
Yeah.
He is there, and literally I have turned around and I have hit him with that strap, and the sound it makes and knocks him off the apron, and there was a moment there where I went, he might be seriously injured here, because that was the sound it makes is incredible.
It sounded like a gun going off.
You did. It sounded like a gun going off. I mean, when he started moving, I went, well, bad luck, you moved, fuck you. At which point I may have wrapped that strap around his throat and just given him a hug, and then choked him from over the rope and dragged his whole body weight up. So, turn back fair play. Great match. It's one of those matches where going in it's going to be physical, and I love that anyway.
Yeah.
And everything about it was physical, and we literally beat the hell out of each other, and I don't think anyone thought that they got shortchanged on that.
No, look, I can tell you, I don't remember probably anything else on that show, but I remember that. The same as with that first photo we had at the AWA show, I was actually at that one too.
Oh, right.
And all I remember is the cage match.
Yep.
I can't remember shit all. But then when I look back in the history and you were on there, Hader was on there. What? I don't even remember it. Not that you weren't memorable. It's just like you just stuff that happens.
Oh, absolutely.
You fly in and watch. I come in second match of the show and I sit down, and then all of a sudden there's a fucking strap match going on, and there's not much else you're going to remember other than two.
And we worked that
smashing.
We worked that gimmick really well, because before that we had Brody we were supposed to have a match, and we went to look up, and I bailed out and didn't do it. And then we were at, we had the rumble, and we both ended up out, and I grabbed one of the referees, jumped between us, and I grabbed one of the belt off the referee, underneath his belt, and pulled it out. I went to hit him, and then Brody turned around and wanted to go me as well, and that's what led to, you want to use straps? Let's have a strap match. And there's like three shows that built up to that, and really just tease that story out. So it was great storytelling again.
Nice, I like it. Here we go.
There you go, and that was literally just here we go. You can see on my face, I know I'm gonna get as good as I give.
Yeah.
And so did he, and it was one of those things of just start swinging, just start
Hey,
swinging.
at least you had a little bit of protection with your butcher on there, and he didn't have any.
Nah, that's it. Well, that's his fault. That's his fault, mate.
He's gone bare chested. Now it's got this one because it's just you chilling in the background, but also it's HQ. And we've got Hammer in there, Zach Sabbath.
And we also had a gentleman called, he would later go on to become Baron.
Kurt Baron.
Kurt Baron, yes.
There you go.
Kurt Baron was a 4-way, and that was a hardcore street fight. It was a high-miss street fight.
Yep.
And that was great. I've worked with Zach a number of times. I've worked with Kurt Baron a few times. I didn't think I'd worked Hammer before, and then we were talking about it, and we actually worked each other on an AWA show years ago, and didn't know him from bar to soap. He rocked up, I rocked up. Great, okay. He's a big bloke. Let's beat the shit out of each other. And then years later, I'd come across him again in RCW. So amazing. I just realised as well. The last one, we were talking about the Rude ones where we won the belts from. So Marvel from the Rude ones.
Yeah.
I actually wrestled him in one of my first few years at a Mitsubishi, when Mitsubishi Motors, they would put on their social club, would put on an event. I wrestled him as a guy I'd never met before. And then like 15 years, or probably a good 12 years later, I joined RCW and ran into this guy who I wrestled back then and went, oh my God, like, didn't even put two and two together. So it's amazing when I look at that, how long I've been around. So this was a good fun match.
Thoughts on the venue?
Visually amazing. The biggest downside to this, and I'm a massive, it's something that I just don't like, it's only 3 sides. So anytime you have a venue which only has 3 sides for the crowd, I don't like it for a few reasons. For me, I want that atmosphere of crowd all the way around. And the other thing with that is it's quite evident if people are working just for a crowd, there's certain elements you need to cater to. So for me, visually to look at, amazing. Just need crowd on that 4th side.
That's fair enough.
Apart from that, it's just tough for people to get to, and it wasn't the most family friendly, etc.
Highland Street Friday night.
All of that stuff, and that's such a shame because it had such a good opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. There we are.
Yep.
Is that a keg in the background?
Yep. Keg got used. Sure did. Yep. Setting up there for a 2nd rope leg drop.
Oof.
And I can tell you that I mangled it. Was not pretty.
Well, the guy's not even in the pictures. That must have been a big jump.
It was on Hammer actually.
There you go.
But I wear that. It wasn't my finest moment, and it's a shame because I loved that move. Especially the 2nd rope leg drop, but just didn't hit it properly. But the setup looked amazing, right? As you can tell.
Look at that. Nice.
Absolutely. Lovely shot. Again, Mel Keane. I know she keeps getting shout outs. Thank you, Mel, for all your wonderful work.
100%.
Captures us, makes us all look amazing. So thank 100%. You for that.
She does a very, very good job. Here's Brooksy.
Yeah, now.
What's going on here?
What is
going on? You're in street clothes.
I am. I know what this is, I reckon. I don't know if that'd be the right timing for that. I don't know if that is...
Sorry, I'm just going to put it in front of you there.
Yeah, no, do what you gotta do, mate. Boys are happy. Into the shifties. I reckon that would have been Brooksy versus Rocky Monero.
Ooh.
Maybe, but I can't quite remember, to be honest. I obviously didn't wrestle in there, but I was obviously being some sort of diversionary turd.
That's not like you.
No. Not at all, mate. I'm just trying to pick that timeline of what that was.
That's alright. Think about it. Might be another photo, maybe. Oh, speaking of Rocky.
So
here we go.
There's another match I've done, an unsanctioned match.
Unsanctioned.
So I hope there's a photo you've got in here, and I don't want to spoil it if you've got it, but there's a great photo that's got myself, Rocky Monero, and Sean Fuster in it. And Rocky Monero and I have known each other since my very first day in the business, basically.
Okay,
From my very early on training, he was there. He was there a bit before me.
Yeah.
And he and I are so much more similar than we are different. And that's great in a lot of ways. And at the same time, it breeds just an insatiable competitiveness because neither of us wants to be less than the other one. So we both want to be top dog, and we both want to be the alpha, and we both don't know how to say no and quit and stop. So we just keep going at each other. And over the years, we've been allies, we've been enemies, we've done it all. And at that point, he and I weren't doing anything at all. But there was one night we finished a show at RCW.
Yeah.
And Sean would grab a few people to just give their thoughts and remarks of basically a wrap-up show backstage. And somehow it ended up being myself and Rocky, and whoever I wrestled that night actually beat me. I actually lost the match, and Rocky was very happy to remind me of that. At which point I was very happy to remind him that didn't matter, and we could settle things our own way if we wanted to. And we ended up basically nose to nose at that point, and it was, we hadn't seen each other for a few years, and we hadn't crossed paths, and in that instant, it was a case of he and I just going, okay, that competitiveness, you can respect someone as much as you possibly do, and you're always going to have that element that goes, but I need to prove that I'm better than you every time. And that kicked it off, and we did that, and we went back and forth. I attacked him at one show. We wrestled, and I got disqualified and didn't stop, and I cut him open basically. He got busted open, bled everywhere, and I ended up getting disqualified for that. And he was disappointed because he wanted to get his comeback on me and couldn't because I was disqualified. And so he begged RCW to go, well, let me wrestle him anyway. I don't care. We'll have an unsanctioned match. So Battle for Supremacy, the whole show happened. The show technically finished. And then there was a short intermission, and when we came out and had a match that was not sanctioned by RCW, so anything that happened in that sense was on us. And again, we beat the living shit out of each other. So
you beat the shit out of each other. A couple of referees, I'm pretty sure.
Well, you know, and there you go.
There you go, bleeding.
Absolutely, bleeding everywhere.
Nice touch of the white singlet.
Absolutely, mate. The old significant other beater. Can't call him a wife beater anymore, mate. Significant other beater.
Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Got to be correct these days. But yeah, so and the contrast, like we are so similar yet so different in the contrast between for him, no facial hair, cropped hair, me, hair everywhere. I was looking at this, and there was actually a
blue jeans, black.
Absolutely, mate. There's a picture you pulled up with myself and Brody the other show, and I was looking at it, I'm like, I was one of the Briscoes before the Briscoes. Like I realised my beard and hair was all over the shop. Absolutely, and a massive shout out to the loss. I know you talked about Sean, huge loss from Jay Briscoe, but it just made me smile a bit and go, wow, I was doing the Briscoe gimmick long before I knew about the Briscoe. So there you go.
Nice, I love it. What have we got here? Here we go. What's going on here?
Commentary. What is going on here? So commentary, but why is that? I'm glad Matt Hayes covering his face up at least. But why is he there? So
this is, I don't know, first night in or?
Must have been first or second show in, I reckon. So this was what happened here was after the non-sanctioned match that we had between myself and Rocky Monero. That's great, but RCW never actually sanctioned me to come back and be able to wrestle. So I was technically still suspended. We get to the next year, the year starts, and I went, okay, that's fine. You've suspended me from wrestling. However, I knew that Sean didn't have a commentary partner at that point. So literally Sean comes out to start the show. I walked out and interrupted him, and he's like, what are you doing? You're suspended. And I explained, I'm suspended from wrestling. I'm not suspended from commentary, and that's what started me working with Sean doing commentary. So
there you go.
And Hayden randomly there, just getting
And here you are, commentary.
And then we had this young fella come in. Sean's Sean's always happy to be doing Sean. Andy's a Labrador, just happy to be there. And I'm just wondering, who is this kid and why does he think he's got a place here? So there you go.
No, good lad though, Andy.
Yeah, good fella.
Here's a bit of a weird one, Supernova.
Supernova, mate. So, a bit of a cheeky nipple slip there too.
Whee!
Look at that. Might want to get the...
make some money off that.
Might want to pixelate that, mate. It's only a PG show.
Maybe the people that watched all of bloody Blair Alexis and Savannah might watch this one.
I think it's the wrong nipple, mate, to be honest. But I was asked to sit on a panel at Supernova and talking about the crossover between sort of comics and gaming and that world and fitness and where they come over, and really it's a bit about the kind of how all of our superheroes now you see them and they are literally just jacked monsters, and how the evolution of that has come about and what that means to people. And so the guy on the left here, he's a cosplayer. He's from Sydney. He's also has competed in bodybuilding as well. So he was talking about his regime and what he does in that sense and how that's crossed over in his world. Sean's obviously in there, and I know Sean told the story that he used his Wii Fit to actually drop a few lbs when he needed to. And so he was talking about how that worked for him and the real positive effect it had mentally for him as well in that sense. And I was asked to come along as someone who dabbled across both worlds and who was, I guess, if you like, a physical figure in that sense, and how I train, how I eat, and how that works for what I do.
No, it's cool. I see Sean's got a San Francisco hat on.
He has.
Yeah, I wish I had him on here a bit later because Kansas City,
harsh.
My team flogged him.
He's also got a T-shirt that I bought back from him. It's a limited edition that you could only get from South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. They had a DC stand there, and I knew Sean was a bit of a sucker for that sort of stuff. So he was wearing that because it was Comic-Con as well.
And he proudly put it out there.
Absolutely.
And then what's going on here?
Well,
the night things turned.
It looks like Brody Marshall's doing the most graceful swan dive I've ever seen. It looks like Rocky Monero's... I
don't know what he's doing. He's dancing.
It looks like he's in the middle of a dance.
Is that a jig?
And I'm just getting the gun show out, apparently.
The hair, the veins.
Oh, mate, it's all popped. So that was back at HQ.
Yep.
And that was the night that Brody Marshall went up against Rocky Monero for the title.
Yeah.
And, basically a best part of a year before that, Rocky and I had beat the shit out of each other, and I was still suspended. I had been doing a little bit of work throughout that year, though, looking into some of the RCW guidelines and also what my contract stated and how it was written. And I managed to find a loophole in how I could come back, and it was actually a 12-month suspension if it wasn't actually lengthened or done, and they didn't do anything with it. So technically my suspension had lifted, or was about to.
Nice.
And in the meantime, Rocky and I may have actually possibly shared a text message or two here and there, spoke about a few things. And so what happened on this night was Brody was trying to win the title from Rocky.
Yeah.
Rocky came over to the commentary table where I was with Sean and went to grab the belt. Sean grabbed the belt and wouldn't let Rocky take it.
Yep.
Rocky then turned and shoved Sean, at which point he came flying, and I actually caught Sean and actually put him down. And he was like, "Oh my God, Tyler Daniels saved me, what's going on?" The crowd thought, "Oh my God, that's amazing, Tyler saved him." Rocky grabbed the belt and walked in, and I went, "Nah." I threw my headphones down, walked into the ring, and everyone thought, "Oh my God, Tyler Daniels is going to hit Rocky," because we had a thing going on.
Yeah.
I literally turned Rocky around and grabbed the belt, and I went, "You are not going to use this, blah, blah, blah." And as Brody Marshall turned around, I might have accidentally gone, "What's going on here?" and happened to just very gingerly clip him on the jaw with the belt. And apparently, Rocky managed to get the 1, 2, 3. So there you go.
Oh, strange things happen.
Absolutely. Good shot, though.
Good shot. It's a good photo. There's a lot going on.
A lot going on.
And then you celebrate with him, though.
Well, it's, celebrate with the winners, right?
Just joining the winning team.
No point commiserating, mate. So
true. There's no bad blood there, by the look of it.
No, if they can't beat him, I'll join him.
And here we go. Come out to save him from Big Baron.
Well, this was a Monsters Ball match. There's another match that I was peripheral to. So this one here, it was Baron versus Rocky for the belt at the old RCW Academy. And what that meant was it was no DQ, anything goes, which included myself and the Pariah getting in there and attacking Baron to look after, protect the gold. And I want to call that there as well, just lurking in the background, lovely Nick Savage. Another old school face from the past. Nick Savage was the first referee I knew when I joined. When I started, he was there. Used to be called Smoking Nick Savage.
Smoking that next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Smoking Nick Savage, mate. Smoking hot business he was back then.
There you go.
But yeah, so good times all around.
Nice. Beating down old Baron.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Indeed.
Look at these blokes, eh?
Look at these blokes. So this...
pricks.
Absolutely.
There's a ladder in the background. What's that doing?
Oh, that's probably putting up the lights, I think. I definitely wasn't another ladder match. I did do a second ladder match, but that wasn't it. I think at that point, I reckon, I don't know if it was before a match or after a match. Maybe I was obviously wrestling. And Rocky was obviously coming out to just let everyone know that he still had the belt. There you go. Back at the old RCW Academy again.
Yeah, the one before they are now, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
this bloke, Matt Hader. That actually could have been this night, because this actually could have been what it was for. This was me giving Matt Hader
break his back.
Absolutely.
Form, beautiful.
Absolutely.
Oh, the bicep bloody vein. Wow.
You know, it's all out there, mate. It's good lighting, obviously.
You're in a wedgie at the same time.
Oh, I try, mate. Anything I can, that kid. Yeah.
What did you have beef with Hader for?
Oh, because have you met him?
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, that's when young Hader was trying to be, and it's hard because they're very. I mean, he's got the best part of 16-hole lace-up boots. I mean, they're big, but he was still too big for those boots. So he was trying to flex himself a little bit and wanted to go after the gold. So
He's had to put him in his place. I like it.
Absolutely. Cross my knee.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Beer and barbecue.
Beer and barbecue fest, indeed it was. Now that, as I said, that day I wrestled against Ace Wilson that day. And that's I really like that jacket, and I deliberately wore it on that day because that was the closest I was ever going to be to Rick Steiner.
Oh,
so there you go.
Right, and it was a cold day from what I can remember.
It wasn't warm. It was early February, right? But it was a bit of a cold day, so I went, okay, I get to wear the jacket. Awesome, I'm going to be Rick Steiner for the day.
Well, why not? And different shows, not a typical ask.
No, that's right.
So
we got to play.
Go away, some fans getting stuck into it.
Oh mate, and I was getting stuck into them. I tell you, so I doubt they might be watching. I don't know, but they are regular fans now of RCW. I don't know if this was the first time they saw us, but it was one of the very first times. I had a go at them because I mean, this she's double parked with two handfuls of drinks. But at one point they managed to have chips, and I actually went over and may have grabbed their chips and thrown them at them. But that's another story. But they wanted the mouth off, so I'm not shy to give it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be honest though, if you have a look, it's sheer admiration. You can see the admiration on their face. Just a hint of lust, I'm going to say
one
that
looks
as well.
impressive, the other one's just not having a good time.
You say that she's actually upset with herself with how much she loves me. That's it. She's going, I don't like how much I like you right now. I'm disgusted with myself for how much I'm invested in this. That's what it is. You can tell.
Well, girls, if you're watching,
absolutely, they know.
Shout it out. Here we go. Here's a one we're talking about.
Absolutely, that's that match with Ace. So either this one or the ACW match was the last one we had together. I can't remember which one came first. They weren't far apart from memory. As I say, worked him many times. Never an issue. Always good fun wrestling with Ace. Regardless of the outcome, it's always a good card contest and just a good all round bloke. So
yeah, absolutely. Here we go, we've got some Power Slam.
Right, so this was the match that I beat Havoc for the title.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was indeed. So Havoc versus Daniels. That is, as I said, the first time we went one-on-one ever, which, as you said, sounds odd because we've known each other for the best part of 20 years in this business. Interestingly, I never have been one-on-one with Blase either. So, yeah, interesting. So, there you go.
Well, we've got that poster's almost a Beer and Brawls poster.
Just about.
We've got Corvidae, Trey, Craig, Cornell.
You've had Izzy, you've had Blair and Savannah on there.
Yeah, we've had Johnny,
Jensen.
we've had Jensen, Down Under, of course.
James
now
Craig.
yourself.
Yep.
Cornell's been on, yep.
Yeah.
Katie Trey, Corvidae.
Yeah, you've only got what? So you only got 3 or 4 that haven't been on, mate.
Yeah, not
Right.
so getting for
Not a bad bingo card.
all. Slowly getting for all. That's
Absolutely.
good. And what is this about?
This is myself and Dane Brady. Wanted to wrestle and then decided he wanted to arm wrestle. So, you know, just a couple of big boys. To be fair, you know what it was. He just wanted to be able to flex his biceps, and what he thought was, I need a guy who's probably as big as I am that can strain me, so it can strain my arm.
Well, he's also cheating using the other hand.
Oh, absolutely, of course he is, and that's exactly right. But all he wanted really was, I need someone who's going to be able to help me show off my biceps.
Yeah.
Who am I to say no and not help out, you know?
Oh, you're such a good lad, aren't you?
There you go, mate. Yes.
What's this?
This is the poster for Dave's Video Graveyard. So I went and was on Dave's Video Graveyard with him. Yeah. Always a good fun with him. He's a good bloke. Bit of a nutbag, so right up my alley. Talk about all things old movies, etc.
Nice.
But good bloke, really good bloke. Really liked what he did with his show. And I think the radio show's wound up, but he's transferred it to a podcast now.
Okay, nice.
My understanding anyway. But yeah, as I say, always a good time, good bloke, good fun. And you know, I'm always fond of a good shirt, so yeah.
It's a nice shirt.
Mate, black and white doesn't do it justice.
It's a good photo though.
Bit smug. This one.
What's this one? Halloween?
Mate, this one is a Halloween. This is me doing Freddie Mercury. Hang on. Me cosplaying Freddie Mercury is probably a better way to put that. That's just wrong on a number of levels, but that's okay. I love a good Halloween dress up. And I always try and do something a little out of the box. So I did Freddie Mercury from Live Aid. And if you were there that night, even though I was a dastardly scoundrel that people didn't like, a wily rascal if you like, I came out and did a medley of Queen songs.
Oh, God.
And the entire crowd was absolutely going nuts. It was huge. That's in the old RCW Academy, and it was so loud in there. Everyone was singing along, and then immediately it stopped, and we went to the match, and I immediately just did something completely horrible, and they immediately started booing me again. So, eating out of the palm of my hand, mate.
I like
Good fun.
I like it.
In fact,
Professional.
And as you can tell, I legitimately shaved the beard. That is a real mo.
Oh,
yeah, that's a mo, mate. I had that and then grew the beard back in, but I legit had the mo. And you can't see it in there too well, but I actually had fake teeth in.
You can,
so
you can tell something's a
teeth.
bit weird there. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh shit.
This chick.
I had to throw this one in because it's topical at the moment. So.
Really? Why? What's she done lately?
She just, I don't know, won some stupid Royal Rumble or some
mate,
shit.
who'd she ever pin? No, look, we all know who that is. The wonderful Rhea Ripley, looking nothing like Rhea Ripley looks now. But you know, she asked, could I have a t-shirt please? And I said, well, I'll give you a t-shirt only if you take a photo and you can show everyone that you had a photo with Tyler Daniels. And she went, well, I want the photo too.
Well, that got her booked on WWE.
Well, you know, it wasn't long after that suddenly she's on WWE programming. So the best thing I love about this chick is, apart from her work ethic and what she's done and how well she's taken to everything, I have so much love and respect and admiration for this young girl. The young lady, she was, I thought of her as a girl, but a young lady now. The funniest thing about this is I remember seeing her the very first night I came in to have a chat to Chris Basso about, hey, I'm thinking about coming across, let's have a chat, see if I'm a fit, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was at not the old RCW Academy at Brompton. It was the one before that at Wingfield.
Okay, yeah.
I came in there and it had this really tiny little section set up with weights and stuff. And I went in and I was having a chat with Chris, and he said, "You come down and have a chat. Let's have a chat and jump in the ring and see and work with the team." Okay, cool. So I went down and having a chat with him, and he's doing this workout with this young little blonde chick, and I went, "Oh, okay, blah blah blah," who happened to be this chick here. So I saw her back then, barely able to lift weights at that point. Has certainly done a bit of work since then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Ever since that though, right from that first time of training with her and watching her, the thing I remember most about her is she cannot get in and out of a ring properly. Never has been able to. And I would always go, "What the hell are you doing?" She would literally fall out of the ring and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And every training it'd be the same thing over and over, and I'm like, "That is ridiculous. You do everything and you cannot get in and out of a ring."
Yeah.
The funniest thing for me was I heard a story a few years later. She was in the Performance Centre and doing that, and had the exact same thing said to her by a gentleman called Stephen Reed.
Yeah.
So he literally looked at her and went, "What on earth? Get in! Why can you not get in and out of a ring?" And at that point, I just laughed and went, "I'm okay with that. If I'm in that sort of company where I can go, well, Stephen Reed says it, I must be doing something right." So, as I said, love that chick to death. I'm so happy and proud of her. Interestingly, one of the most amazing things that I didn't know she even, I didn't realise that she made it to her at the time, is when she was leaving. She'd been signed, it was going to happen, it was all real, she was heading over to the States. We all had a massive goodbye for her, celebration and stuff. And I hugged her and I just whispered in her ear, I said, "Never forget where you came from, but leave us far behind." Right? And that was it. And I just said that to her and she just said thank you. And it was just teary the whole thing. We were so happy for her.
Yeah.
I didn't realise until a few years later, she actually has that mounted in her house. Oh. She had those words mounted and they sit in her home, and she, to this day, she actually sent me a photo of it one time. We were messaging back and forth. Yeah. And I started to get misty-eyed because I didn't realise it had meant that much to her. But just to know that, and I didn't have a lot to do with the training, but I certainly trained with her and watched her at matches and talked to her and mucked around and did all that stuff. When she was, coming up through the ranks, and she was always so talented. What I didn't know is that something that I would say just in that moment would mean so much to her. But she has absolutely lived that. She loves where she's from, has never forgotten her family, all that stuff. But she has left us so far behind and done so well because of it. I'm so super stoked for her. And I don't even know if you know this, the name Steve O'Neill's been thrown around on this podcast once or twice. Johnny Reddick mentioned his name. So Steve O'Neill and I actually did a podcast a number of years ago. We did a semi-wrestling podcast where we would talk about the local product, we'd review the international product, and we'd talk a whole heap of shit beyond that. Podcast called the Horse Shit Podcast. Unfortunately, the episodes are no longer, they were HSP. They're no longer available. It was myself, Steve O'Neill, and Cannibal Chris Taylor, and we had a ball. But we were talking there, and Demi had just made her debut, I think at one of the Rumble, when she made her first debut in the Rumble from NXT, right? It was her first appearance. And Steve and I were talking about that, and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "She will be headlining WrestleMania within 5 years." So come April this year, it's going to be her and Charlotte Flair headlining one of the nights on Mania. And he said, "Are you serious?" I went, "Absolutely. I have no doubt whatsoever." And I could not be prouder of her and the hard work she's putting to get where she is. She deserves everything. She will be, she's going to go well beyond wrestling. She is going to be an absolute personality. She's going to be the next kind of Dwayne Johnson type figure. She will bust out of what she's doing. She's such an iconic figure. It's so amazing to think that this young lady that came from us and we she is now someone who cannot walk down the street anywhere in the world. The level that she has got to is mind-blowing, it is astronomical, and again, as I say, could not be happier and prouder of her.
No, absolutely.
Deserves everything.
No, definitely, 100%. No, she's a legend.
And still so humble.
No, definitely.
Speaking of humble, Someone's been humbled there.
I've been able to ruin your nice shirt.
Oh, mate.
God.
I know, right?
What's going on here?
So that was the evening that the pariah thought that they could do better without me. And we'd been having some animosity back and forth that had been growing.
Yep.
And then one night after a match, they wanted to beat the shit out of Jimmy C. And I went, no, that's enough. And the return of Rocky Monero, who hadn't been around for a while, came out and sort of calmed things down. And then instead of calming things down, he sucker punched me. And then the boys jumped in like the little mongrel terriers that they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And the three of them beat the shit out of me, and they got their cheap knockoff gold-plated chains, wrapped the fist, and beat the shit out of me. And you can see you can see what happened, mate. I can't be upset. In this business, you give as good as you get, and I've given plenty, and I wore my lumps that night, I can tell you.
Oh, well, that's all right, as long as you can accept it.
Oh, mate.
And this led to this.
It definitely did. It led to this, and you can see the family down the bottom, and for like them, hate them, whatever, those two boys have done such an amazing job to be who they are and where they are, the pariah.
Yeah, definitely.
The good/bad thing about that is they have learnt so many of their tricks and been schooled by myself and Rocky Monero, so they are wonderfully devious, I'll put it that way, in that sense.
They know all the tricks.
The three of us at the top there, I loved the setup to this because we set this up, and the show before this was in the RCW gym, where the pariah had a match. They played my music. They went to the entranceway to jump me. Rocky went into the ring. I came through the crowd again and decked Rocky, which the crowd loved, and then got out. And at that point, that's when Mike Boomer and Zach Sabbath, Kings of Ruin, actually beat the pariah on that night and took their tag titles. So I caused the pariah to lose the belts that night, and they went, "That's it, forget this. We want you. We want him. Fine. The three of you bring your three. I'll bring people. Let's do this at the Fringe." And that's set up for this. And the best part I loved about this was, they were dead set convinced that I had turned my back and turned on everyone in that locker room, which is true over the years. Who on earth could I possibly find that would want to fight with me against them? And I went and I found a couple of guys who'd been just slowly making their way back from their own situations. Big Matty Basso there on the left, he overcame some really serious real life stuff. And we know Brody Marshall on the right there had a very serious neck injury, and as I heard him talk about, was against doctor's orders, wasn't supposed to come back, but he did. And the part I love about that is I cut a promo for that and did a massive tease right at the end. You heard why I was so upset, why I was so angry, and how much I wanted vengeance against these boys. And I told them I was bringing two guys that would go walk through hell with me. And then right at the end, we cut away, and all we had was Matty's horn and Big Brody's helmet on the chair, and it just. And I know that there, I still get chills thinking about just that promo. You get to the end of that, and you just saw that, and you just went, "Oh my God!" And we built that up, and they didn't show their face anywhere until they walked through that curtain at the Fringe, and the reaction they got on that in that moment that they came out was deafening in that tent. Brilliant.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think we have some special ones.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Not quite.
Not there yet.
That is the Power Slam champion.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier.
Not looking too bad for a bloke who's just taken a flogging from Havoc. And I can tell you right now, he's another bloke that gives as good as he gets, and we beat the shit out of each other again. So it wasn't quite good enough on that night. I bested him that evening and took his Power Slam belt.
There you go.
It unfortunately, that was actually where did that line up? I reckon that was before the Fringe.
Okay. Yep.
But we didn't have another Power Slam show until the Fringe, and then at the Fringe, obviously, I destroyed my shoulder, which at that point that is a pre-surgery shoulder. At the Fringe show, destroyed the shoulder, and then had to relinquish the championship because I couldn't defend it. And I believe young Down Under now has that.
Down Under
is the owner of that one currently. So interesting.
Well, hopefully we haven't seen Power Slam for a while, so we'll have to see what happens
there.
Oh, no, we still haven't got to the good ones.
Oh,
We
mate.
got a few on here.
Jeez, I tell you what, I have had a career, haven't I?
We got a PWSA match.
Look at that. So 20 years of PWSA. So that is against Acid Hayes for the PWSA Championship. And I came back, and that was in between me hitting Brody with the belt and me coming back. No, I take that back because that would have been after that year. So we worked through that, and no, because that's right, because that was me coming off of commentary. So I was on commentary. I hit Brody with the belt because I was managed to get that. And I went to PWSA at the start of the next year, because that was our last show for Right City, but the start of the next year, I went and had a match just to sort of shake off some ring rust with Acid Hayes. And to his credit, we went 20-something minutes and a match went all over the place. And he ended up hitting me with, it wasn't a chain, but it was like a tire iron or something in the end. And got me with a cheap one. Dazed me enough, picked up the 3 and held onto his belt. So credit to him. But no, you've seen him in action before.
Yes.
He's a tenacious little bugger. He does not stop.
Oh no, he loves a scrap.
He loves a scrap, and he just keeps going. If anyone knows old enough to know who it is, he's one of the old Moondogs. Never stops, mate. Just keeps moving forward.
Just keeps going.
There we go. Look at this. Look at this.
Who is that guy?
You know the thing about this, and I'm sure there's worse. That's not even the worst of it. That's a very young looking bloke, so that's got to be early on. And I know exactly when it is because I know that gear. That's not even my original gear, so I don't even know how I look that young there. But okay.
Triton's in it.
Joey Triton's in that. Blue Blood, who I won a tag title with. And on the left, Luch, who sadly is no longer with us, unfortunately. He left us a few years ago now, very much known, and it was very sad when he left. I don't know if you mentioned it, but Ace knew him very well, and a number of Johnny knew him very well, and really sad. So, but yeah, look. Snake Pit Pro Wrestling with the wonderful lightning in the background. It's probably the most. It's probably the most exciting part of that poster is the lightning, but it's back in the day, mate.
Something,
isn't it? No gun show there, mate. I can tell you that.
Well, it'll build into it.
Mate.
Don't get too excited. I haven't got too many old.
Oh yeah, I know. I bet you I know what you have got there. Oh yeah, same era.
There you go.
And it's Tyson Storm, who was again one of those kids that had amazing athleticism. Was probably a good 6'2", 6'3", and just was so. He doesn't look it there, but just one of those kids that's just thick, solid, and could high fly, like just amazing athleticism. There you go. Same here.
Pink Flames.
Pink Flame again. Mate. Again. Spared no expense on the effects.
That's pretty cool,
isn't it? Look at that.
There you go.
That's so again. Look at that, doing the Briscoe.
There, look at that.
Mate, I didn't even know this photo existed until not long ago. But yeah, just trying to match Johnny and not quite pulling it off by the looks of it. He's still at the largest arms in Australian wrestling.
His arms are huge.
Mate, that was the Cole Devani tribute show.
Yeah.
And he and I wrestled one-on-one on that show. And then at the end of it, as a sign of good faith, I allowed him to do the double biceps, double cobras, and I went, Johnny, I'll have a crack at it, but I know this is really yours. So, but yeah, you can see from the last poster to this one, a little bit of a body,
a little bit of a change,
little bit of a metamorphosis. You know,
not too much.
It's always a work in progress. Never too late, kids.
I think that's all.
That's it.
Mate,
that's so much better than I anticipated.
It's look, there's I got in touch with your manager and they didn't send me enough.
Mate, I tell you what, there's a couple floating around out there that are just terrible.
We had a deep dive, but unfortunately that's all we could rustle up for this show.
I'm so glad that's all you could.
So
there you are.
Yeah, you were nervous, but it's alright. We didn't have it as bad as you thought.
It wasn't as bad as I thought. I'm happy about that.
But maybe one day down the track in another season, if we do a follow-up episode, we might
worst of, eh?
Dig it,
best of,
dig
worst
a bit
of.
deeper.
Beautiful.
But no, that brings us to the end of the photos, mate. Appreciate going through those and telling the stories.
Happy to.
Because as you said, it's nearly 19, 20 years that you've been going.
It's scary, mate.
Like this.
Scary.
So obviously lots happened, been through a lot. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk about those.
Absolutely.
So next up, we're just gonna plug your social media.
Yeah, mate. Sure.
Talk about what you got going on, and
Absolutely.
go from there.
So social media. Tyler Daniels _ the difference on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active, and I'll be honest, I haven't been very active on that as of late.
Yeah.
I've deliberately sort of gone into a little bit of shadows just while I sort of rehab and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Same thing, Tyler Daniels the difference on Facebook as well. I have Twitter, but I'm not a big proponent. I don't generally use Twitter much at all.
Yeah.
That's the socials there. Always happy to gain followers, and it's funny who kind of follows you and finds you at times.
Yeah.
I've got some promos on there, some really good promos. I've filmed promos as well. There's one that's called From Little Things Big Things Grow. They did for the Rocky feud, which is really cool.
Yeah, nice.
Some really good stuff on there. There's some great. I heard Big Brody Marshall talking about as well. His backstage at the Fringe just before he walked out. I've got footage of me backstage in that as well, and it is one of those moments, and that's on there as well. So
nice.
Check it out, enjoy.
All the links will be in the description, guys. Give him a follow, give him a like. Any merch or anything?
No, look, you went through, you saw both of the t-shirts I've ever had out. I've got a few other designs that I've never put into production, only because at this stage I don't know whether I'm coming back to do that or not, but possibly. We'll see how we go. I reckon I may have, and don't quote me on it, I might have a couple of smalls of that t-shirt left, and that's about it. So maybe even I don't want to say a large or medium, but something like that. I don't know. Maybe out there. But
give him a follow, give him a like, give him a message if you got looking for a shirt.
Absolutely.
He might have a size for you. But no, all the links will be in the description, guys. Also go on the YouTubes and watch those matches that we've talked about from the Riot City and stuff like that. And maybe Johnny Radic, if you're watching, send us some old matches of his from Snake Pit or AWA or something if you've got them hidden away somewhere. But other than that, mate, I really, really appreciate you coming on.
I love it, mate.
It's been a great chat.
Absolutely.
Hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. It's always great to have a legend of the game on here. Hear all the stories, advice, and hopefully you guys listen to the stuff he talked about, what's missing in Australian wrestling at the moment. But other than that, mate, I'll let you get back to your Friday night.
Appreciate it, mate. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Happy to come back. Shifty Lizard, you're on call, so get on board.
Yeah, challenges out.
Looking forward to that. And thanks, mate. Just scratch the surface. Could have talked for so much more. So many more stories.
We could do a follow-up, you never know.
Yeah, let's see how we go.
Easy, man.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Beers and Brawls. And again, another massive, massive thank you to my guest, Tyler Daniels. It was awesome to have him on here, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And of course, like I said at the start of the show, a massive thank you to our sponsor, Shifty Lizard. You guys are legends. I'm not going to rave on about it all the time, fans, but these guys are legends, so go and check them out. Willunga or Hard Day's Night here in Adelaide CBD. But give us a like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Until then, cheers.